Okay, I'm excited to be here. I really appreciate John Paul, Gregory, and all the staff at Smart to Move. I was the first person in the United States to have the true 3D dual force plates 6 years ago. That's hard to believe. 6 years ago, I've had dual plates. So these are the vertical only plates, and I brought them out here, and this is the new 3D plate. I've had all versions. I've had this version, I've worked with this version, but the version I use on a day-to-day basis is the 3D plate in the back that's on the tilt. So I'm going to talk basically in that verbiage as we go through this. So let me give you an idea of how all this started. I'm old, 64 years old, and I've been a golf professional for 42 years, and I was a head golf professional for 40 of them. That's called insanity. When you want to be a world-class teacher, a world-class fitter, and a world-class club pro all at the same time, I tell people I made my own schedule. I did what I wanted to do, and my schedule, as long as it began with an 8, I could do whatever I wanted to do. So I was at work 80 hours a week for 40 years. I missed 7 days of work in 42 years. And I only didn't open as a head pro for 7 of them. So you got to be dedicated to do that. And I love what I do. I love learning. Most of us in this room at one time wanted to be a great player. All of us. The furthest I went was Division I college golf, and the team I was on was way better than me, but I was just good enough not to get run off. And it was in 1978 to 82. I worked harder than anybody on the team. I had yardage books. I was the most passionate. I could tell you who won every U.S. Open from 1940 to 1978 and what golf course they won it on. My teammates couldn't tell you any of that. I would go to bed early during tournament days. They'd go out, sneak out, get drunk, beat my ass the next day. Why? Well, damn it. It's not fair. This is not a fair game. My mom said, James, you work harder than everybody else. You'll be better than everybody else. And I said, Mom, you never played golf. So it's a mean game. Golf is mean. Golf is terrible at partial credit. And physics never takes a day off. Let's keep remembering that. Now, my first week as a head golf professional, I thought I knew something. I'm giving a lesson to an engineer. His name was Mr. Ray Lacombe. And Mr. Ray Lacombe, at the top of his backswing, I asked him to do something. And of course, like any good engineer, he says, why? I said, because I do it. Well, that's the most stupid thing you could tell somebody. He says, well, how do you know if I do it right? I said, well, I got my eyes. This is 1982. He goes, shook his head, and he goes, James, never guess what you can measure. How many times have you seen that phrase in this room? Well, I tell people I made it famous, but Ray Lacombe was the one who created it. So I said, okay, Mr. Ray, why? He says, if you measure a good outcome and a poor outcome, if you measure them both, you can reconcile why they're different. Why did the ball do something different? Well, if you measure them both, you can find out and isolate why. Well, that hit me like a ton of bricks. Went and bought a $2,800 video camera in 1982. My salary was $9,000 a year. 6 times in my career, I spent more on one purchase than I made a year in teaching. And now I make a lot, so it's hard to do. So anyway, that started my journey of measuring. I had a college teammate who won the tour school, was struggling, and I was his so-called caddy and teacher. That was a joke. I thought I knew something, and he was struggling. I said, Tim, come to Slidell. I'm going to video you on this new video camera, and we're going to measure why you're struggling. So we come in there, and there's enough audio on it to understand that was a pull, that was a push. And after about 30 minutes of looking at his video, I realized I couldn't tell the difference between his good shots and his bad shots on video. I was terrified. I was mortified. I did not know what the hell I was doing. And I had this guy's career in my hands. I wanted to cry. So I told him some BS. He lost his freaking card. And I never forgot that. I tell him I'm sorry every time I talk to him because I didn't know what to do. So growing up in the 70s playing golf, nobody wanted to be better than I did. It would have been impossible. I was at the golf courses sun up to sundown 7 days a week from the time I was 13 to 22 if I wasn't in school. I worked hard enough to do it, to be there, but there's something wrong. So here comes out of college, go to be a head pro, meet Mr. Ray Lacombe, now I'm measuring. About 1994, they came out with these plates, not these, that you could stand on. I've got a picture of them, but they were only about 6 inches wide and about 14 inches long, and you would swing off of it. The problem was people couldn't stay on them. I mean, they could get hurt. So I quit using them because I wanted to know about weight transfer. We called it weight transfer at the time. And so that was in the late 80s, early 90s. And then in 1994, I walked into Health South Labs, Birmingham, Alabama, and they were doing full 3D. And I saw these two plates in the ground that had the same color carpet as the rest of the carpet. What are those two squares in the ground? And the guy goes, well, those are force plates. I said, oh, they measure how much you push into the ground. He goes, yeah. Wow, well, can you show me some data? Well, no, after we capture a swing, it takes us a week to put it together. So, okay, but I knew that was research grade. So in my mind, I knew I wasn't going to buy force plates until I got research grade. For those of y'all who know me, if not the first, one of the first people ever teach with TrackMan. I got my TrackMan in 2006, and I was doing their seminars for them in 2008, and I never worked for them. So I'm proud of that. Basically educated the world on how to use TrackMan for teaching, and a lot of other people did some great work on that. But also too, I wanted to complete my setup. I wanted to get body 3D. I wanted the TrackMan, but I knew I wanted force plates. And a lot of force plate stuff came on the line in the last 20 years, and I always wanted to buy it, but I remember that lab in Birmingham, Alabama, and say, I don't want until I get that. So here comes Smart to Move. And a big TrackMan guy, Smart to Move, signed an agreement with TrackMan. And that's when I chose Jean Paul and those guys. They had excellent software. I thought it was the best I'd ever seen for it. So I bought them. There's only one problem. I didn't even know how to turn them on. So here I am, I'm starting in 2018, have no experience with ground reaction forces. Everybody else is all over it. And they go, well, James, you're a leader in everything. Why don't you want to learn about ground reaction forces? I said, because there's nothing out there that measures it the way it's supposed to be measured. That's why. And I said, if I learn, I want to learn on the right equipment. I said, that's telling a race car driver he has to learn to drive on an automatic transmission if he's going to try to compete on a manual. Doesn't make sense. So anyway, fast forward. The golf swing has two major components. How do we make this club go fast? Speed generation system. So if I keep my arms dead straight, my speed generation system is really only turn, is it not? That's it. So I can only make that club go as fast as I can turn. Then we go, well, what if we bend the arm and straighten it and turn? Well, it goes a little faster. Well, what if we bend the trail arm and cock the wrist up and bend the wrist and both extend and flex the wrist and give it radial and all the deviation and do it that way? Oh, it goes a little faster. I learned this in 2006. I bought AMM 3D. If anybody's familiar with AMM, it's the one with the wires going all over your body. $40,000. And I was doing $20,000 a year lessons. But I wanted to measure how the body moved. And I had 1,000 questions when I bought it. And a month later, I had 2,000 questions. And there was nobody that could answer them in 2006. So then I still said, okay, I want these force plates because I knew I needed it. Then TrackMan comes along. And now I'm measuring the club. I'm measuring the ball. I'm measuring the body. I'm missing that. To make a club go fast, for instance, this is a speed generation system for putting. This is a speed generation system for putting. So, to create enough speed to putt, you don't need to have a system that's got all of these what we call out-of-line alignments and going back from out-of-line to in-line. For instance, if we're going to nail a nail into a 2x4, you can't make the hammer go very fast like this. But if you bend the arm, extend the wrist, and then straighten it and flex the wrist, you can knock the hell out of the nail. So the second is the impact alignment system. I think, a bunch of us help educate the world how the club has to come into the ball. I think this whole building is in somewhat of agreement why the ball goes where it goes. Luckily, I went all over the world to tell everybody that, and so did a lot of other people. So that, we don't have much arguments on why the ball goes where it goes. So we got that taken care of. The speed generation system is the efficient acceleration and deceleration of body segments from proximal to distal end. What does that mean? In 2006, Greg Rose and Dave Phillips had us in a room and they did 3D. Greg Rose says, is deceleration the turn or pivot on the downswing good? No. He goes, you're wrong. I said, show me. And he showed me the first time I ever saw a kinematic sequence graph. The pelvis and the rib cage and the lead arm all accelerated and decelerated in the downswing. Whoa. Then he showed me wrist graphs, extension, radial, ulna, going into flexion, going into extension. Went, oh my God, that's what the wrists do? You mean they don't just stay flat the whole time? Well, everybody laughs at that now, but in 2006, not everybody knew all that. So I bought that damn system. That cost me $40,000. I bet you I've only done $15,000 of lessons on it. But boy, what I learned was worth way more than that. What happens is when we want something to go faster, the more proximal segment has to slow down, and then the distal segment, which is outside of that, can start speeding up. And that goes literally from the floor through your body into your arms and eventually into the club. So there has to be a braking or deceleration for that to happen. Well, that's where we need the ground to do it. The ground doesn't cause it. The only ground reaction force that comes from the ground is called the earthquake. That's caused by the ground. The golfer creates the ground reaction force that comes back to the golfer. That's important to understand. You know, when you jack a car up when it has a flat, does the ground lift the car? No, the damn jack lifts the car. The ground, hopefully you're on concrete and your car lifts. But if you put the jack on pudding, you ain't gonna jack the car up. So what you're standing on affects ground reaction forces. What your feet are in, your shoes, affects ground reaction forces. I was with Tiger Woods the very day he first went to those flat Nike shoes, from heeled shoes his whole career. Was in a practice round at the PGA, and he goes, my God, everything feels different. I don't feel the ground the same way. Yeah, he lost a half-inch heel. So his ground reaction force has changed that very day. Very interesting. The geometric impact alignments, those are speed, path, face, and impact point. Those are the 4 laws in golf. There are only 4 laws in golf. Everything else is optional, including using the ground. You don't have to use it the same way. I got people with real high ground reaction forces with low club head speeds, and I'm going to show you a guy with 150 miles an hour yesterday that I captured that has unbelievably low laterals, unbelievably low vertical torque, and 150 miles an hour club head speed. Hello? McFly? So is he maximizing those out? I've got women who have more lateral force than he has and vertical torque. Crazy. So adjusting one of these without the other is inefficient. So we also, we want to make our player swing faster, but if that affects his impact alignment system, that might not be a good trade-off, what? Okay? And vice versa. So ground reaction forces are the tail of lateral, rotational, and vertical forces peaking, then reversing on the downswing. They peak and reverse. The laterals peak, going laterally pushing forward, then reverse before impact. The rotationals peak after the top and reverse before impact. The verticals go into a D-weight and a maximum vertical, all past top before impact. And the dynamics of those 3, accelerating and decelerating and reversing, is what puts that energy through the body into the club. And we need the ground to do that, because everybody's seen the one where the guy tries to hit the golf ball off of ice. It's not good. But guess which one of the forces, the 3 I just told you, lateral, rotational, and vertical, you could still do on ice? The vertical, because it doesn't need friction. The rotational, which is the trail foot pushing back and the lead foot pushing forward, once you put that shear force into the ground, there's not enough traction and they fall on their butt. Nor could they laterally move left and push back, because that requires traction too. How many good shots you hit losing your footing? I can never remember hitting a good shot losing my footing, ever. Mark, where'd your ball go when you lost your right foot? Left. Every damn time. So it changed that whole reaction through his body, and what was at the end didn't do the same thing it normally did because the forces weren't the same. Super important. The golf swing is a controlled jackknife with geometric consequences. So when that club comes down, it's a jackknife. Y'all know what a jackknife is, right? It's in a holster and then it's thrown out. So when that club comes down this way, what makes this club dump out are the 3 forces that those say. The lateral, boom. So going forward, if I'm on one of those horizontal escalators and I got like this and all of a sudden I hit a brick wall, what's the club going to do? It's going to dump. If I'm standing here and then somebody puts me in an elevator, the Tower of Terror going up, it pulls me straight to the sky, what is this angle going to do? It's going to dump. If I'm rotating and then I stop, what's this going to do? It's going to dump and pass us up. Everybody throws it on every swing, it's just wind. For bad players, they're throwing it before they get to the ball. The best players in the world throw it, but it's not until over here. But they're throwing it. They're throwing it starting back here. It's not what they're thinking about. I took out my best favorite slide, but I'm going to tell you what it is. Great players pay homage to laws they have no idea exist. And I got a picture of Dustin Johnson and Bubba Watson. You don't have to know why you're good to be good. As long as you're not breaking the laws, you get a pass. But if you're breaking a law and nobody helps you fix it, you're in golf hell, absolute golf hell.